I don't know if I've said this before, but I'll say it again because it's starting to. I mean, Roger Waters and Double Down News basically have just done a video about genocide, in the Middle East, but basically everywhere globally, really. They are focusing on the Middle East, but they're acknowledging it kind of everywhere, really. The thing, Big Brother Watch, they kind of like. I mean, I do follow Big Brother Watch, and I don't really want to criticise them too much, but they were going on about, people who are capable, people who are being capable, or, not handicapped or whatever. Or, I mean, you could throw me into that category in the sense that, it's not the top of my priorities or really any priority or agenda to kind of, be famous, really. I've always wanted to just try and get on with life and everyone to kind of treat everyone the same, and if everyone just was nice to each other, then life would just go along as happy, and this word grace, in grace. But some people who seem to want to, greed, not only in, greed in food, but greed in material possessions, and then greed in the social greed as well, excess, these are two stadiums and so forth. When, why would anyone need the attention of more than one room, even when, they're going out with their friends and doing things? Why do they need these excessive amounts of attention, That's one thing where I kind of differ with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I mean, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., there's a lot of famous people or successful people who don't relate to everyday normal people, and there is ones who do relate to everyday normal people. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., he does relate to, normal everyday people, but he is from this background of, stardom and fame, really, with the whole, Kennedy legacy. With the whole, there's something important tied into this whole surveillance thing, right? Big Brother Watch are vehemently and strongly, with a passion, opposing the use of this surveillance technology out in the streets, out in society, out and about in public, right? And special software on the cameras, not only having cameras everywhere, but the software on the cameras, using it with, AI software and all this, tech, which is making permanent calculations and accusations against people, right? But okay, to have a successful campaign, right, you've got to do something. You've got to speak. You've got to go places. You've got to talk. No one is doubting that. So, I'm not criticising Big Brother Watch, saying that, you shouldn't be on YouTube, or you shouldn't be having, public meetings, or you shouldn't be going on TV or the news or whatever. I'm not saying that at all. But really, when you think about it, right, this whole model for surveillance, I don't think it is just about having it on the streets and through cameras in public, right? Because really, all these platforms, there's no doubt that they're going to be using similar tech. They're using it in the adverts. They're using all the data in many diverse and myriad ways, right? To assess and surveillance people and make calculations about people and profile people, right? And there's no doubt that these platforms and Google, I can't even literally sneeze now without it popping up on Google, like, oh, you just sneezed or something. Even when I go on a website that's nothing to do with Google, or I do something on a device that is not even online, they seem to know about it, right? And the thing is that I think that it's these Zoom meetings and literally just social media videos, even now me speaking into the phone, holding it in my hand, right? That is where they have been milking it and really putting us all into boxes with this technology, right? The streets in public, it is, I think the battle's already been lost. And I think now that frontier, Big Brother Watch are literally fighting this kind of battle on the front line, when I think that really it's kind of been lost, because also all these massive oppositions to what the government are doing, and the government are bloody well doing a lot of these things anyway, regardless of us having a say in it, like, banging speed limiters on cars, or, sticking Julian Assange in prison for 5 years, before his deals, or whatever they're doing, and the thing is, we can only do something about what the government are doing if we stir up a fuss, if we react, if we respond, if we, come together like Extinction Rebellion, whether it's online or on the streets, or like Just Stop Oil, or even if you have Zoom meetings and just talk about it, or whatever. So, and this, for the government, when they've got all this surveillance, monitoring, and polling software, assessment software, which no doubt this 77th Brigade have been involved in, and so forth, right? That is the perfect, ideal climate and opportunity for them to literally assess everyone. Let's get you on. They want to get you on Zoom. They want to get you stamping your feet. They want to get you complaining. They want to get you associating with Vobes, or the Love Party, or Culture Council Watch, or whoever it is. They really want to like strike you, like an instrument, ring you like a bell, or strike you like a xylophone, and see what sound you make, right? They really want to get people talking, so they can put them in these boxes, like in Canada they're doing with Trudeau, so we can slap all these sanctions on everyone, right? They're using the software that Big Brother Watch are opposing on the front line, vehemently on the streets. That, I think that it's gone. It's lost, because they've got what they wanted, which is to get you in front of the camera, multiple people on Zoom meetings, and see people's facial responses to the other speakers on Zoom when you've got a screen full of 9 people, and compare facial expressions and behaviour. What political parties do you support and oppose? I think that Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk and Bill Gates, and Jeff Bezos, I think that they've already pigeonholed all of us. They've already done it, and all they're trying to do now is get the legislation through, so then, and physically, so they can stop you moving around, stop you going to places, stop you turning up at demonstrations, push your button and drop your algorithms so you don't pop up. Now, you might be saying, well, how come Big Brother Watch are already succeeding? How come, Stop ULEZ succeeded with that big 20-mile-an-hour petition in Wales, or Stop ULEZ succeeding with the Blade Runners, or whatever? Well, I think they're allowing us to succeed in order to come out of the woodwork, so they can classify us with all the tech, like, Gail Bradbrook with, Lord Walney and so forth. I think they're squeezing the toothpaste tube to get everyone out, so they can, assess it and put it in the plectrum jars, to classify it all and shelve it, right? And then you're all boxed in, because they're putting these laws through, and they're making these changes regardless of what people do or say. I mean, look at Julian Assange. He was never allowed to be extradited from the first place. It was impossible to extradite him legally in law, right? And they knew that. So how can they put him in prison, right? And then they held him for a ridiculous amount of time, which is against Magna Carta, delaying it. I mean, at what point? I mean, I only just kind of realised that bit of law, how serious that was now. That's 5 years on. That should have been noticed after maybe 12 months or 6 months or whatever, what's going on here. Even though with that Assange thing, I can tell you now, that plea they forced him to do on the island, that American island on the way back to Australia, is void, because the justice who held him to it has broke his oath. You can't have favours in law. You can't have deals and favours for justice. It's actually, this is another thing in the Bill of Rights, particularly in the Claim of Right, and the 1689 one as well. And in it's in the oath, the judge's oath. You're not allowed to do favours and deals for justice. And in the American oath, it's got different wording for it, but it means effectively the same. It's to do with the the impartiality and not doing justice by the person's personal conscience or opinions. You've got to do justice by the evidence presented and by. So you've got to do justice like by the evidence presented and by the law, right? Through the actual evidence that's presented in the court and by the law itself, right? You're not allowed to do justice through deals with the defendant, because that is encroaching on their own the conscience of the person, like the conscience of the jurors, the conscience of the defendant. And that is to do with the free will of the plea based on their conscience, right? And if this is it, and at the end of the day, deals are favours. So the Americans have broke the law. Assange has not pleaded guilty validly in law, and that justice needs to face criminal charges, and the Attorney General. Same in England, but judges in England aren't allowed to do favours under their oath. And they're actually facilitating, right, favours in law between the American interested party and the Attorney General in England, Priti Patel, it was originally, and Assange. And that's why you can't do deals. There are multiple reasons why you can't do favours for justice. It's a legal principle long established. So, the Assange, the Assange, this is important because they're breaking all these laws, and look at that 20 mile an hour petition, whether you support it or not. The amount of people they got signed behind it is more than what Sadiq Khan got from the entire population of London in the London election, with polling stations in place, with promotion, with news channels, and helping people to come out and vote, right? Khan got less people ticking a box than the entire country of Wales, which is less population than London. So I really don't know what the Welsh government is playing at. They're definitely not doing democracy at the moment. They're not actually doing democracy at all. And what they're actually doing is that they're doing this world takeover through machines, devices, tech, which is effectively tools, like Starmer. My father was a tool maker, Well, this is what they're using. They're using tools. And then Starmer's always praising or congratulating or giving honours to these tool makers, the mobile phone maker, the microchip inventor, the software programmer, the, monitor maker. All these people have made all these, magical devices we've got in his hands, like, Wi-Fi headphones and all these things, wireless headphones and, a micro camera that, you can stick on a pinhead or whatever, or even smaller. So, and I think that this is what it's about. If we'd got politics and if we'd got democracy, then our votes and things would count in these matters, but they're not counting, and they would be doing justice by law and by the evidence, but they're not doing justice by law and by the evidence. And then they're bringing all this tech in and all these new legislation to restrict, prohibit people's movement and behaviours, and then even making certain behaviours illegal. And it's the tools that are doing it, the tech. I think it's gone. Now, what the main point is, though, it's like, I'm not saying that people shouldn't go on the radio or go on TV or whatever, but we're being forced out. We're being squeezed out the toothpaste tube when we don't really want to, or we're being poked with sticks. I mean, and the thing is, even if, this is perfectly normal, Jeremy Vine's constantly going, this is perfectly normal, it's perfectly normal, it's perfectly normal. I don't think that, Marilyn Monroe or Elvis wasn't normal. It was an exception. I don't think we should ban musicians, and I'm never, saying we should ban being famous, but, there's always been music artists, entertainers, the circus or whatever, singers, entertainers, people who, the bards, but it's this kind of like, sticking it on overdrive, so it's all maxed out. And then the thing is that when you attract too many people to when you get a magnet and everything sticks to it, then it's not, you're taking attention away from other people, and maybe some people like peace and quiet or like being by themselves or whatever, but there's always a thing when you've got the masses en masse, like huge volumes of people, right? It always ends up tying into power, government, and propaganda, no matter how you do it, because even the big musicians end up getting into politics or whatever. When you're mobilizing that massive amounts of people, it's never just for a walk in the park, or to walk through the woods, or to go picking daisies, because that amount of people are going to trample the daisies, So, and I think on the internet, if people were, living life, going out with friends or family, or, even one friend or 10 friends, going places, being out in nature, making music, doing entertainment or whatever it is, you don't need a mobile phone really, unless you just need a quick call to someone, you want to check up on your family if they're in another country or whatever, or if it's a business meeting or so forth. But I think that they're really wanting to superglue the phone onto your face, like what Mark Zuckerberg's plan is with the metaverse, right? Why do you need this other world, when you've got the real world here, And a lot of it is political distraction, or to get you to buy, sports products, drinks, foods that have been dropping a sperm count through the bottom of the floor over the years. And this is when you get back into the old genocide model, which, Roger Waters is talking about. It's... the thing with machinery, and Starmer and his tool making, once you've got a factory knocking out knives, forks and spoons, right? Yeah, you can make knives, forks and spoons. But once every person's got one knife, fork and spoon that's going to last a lifetime, why do they need any more? But then they're wanting to change the style of the spoons, or they make cheap ones so they don't last that long, their current model for this mass consumerism and commercialism for the sake of it, it's all wrong, it's that, and currently, I actually think that, the thing with Big Brother Watch is that their frontline activism against the use of the software on the streets, the use of the software in public, it is already that is almost like, missing the dartboard. It's like missing the target, or not even on the same page, because I think that where it's really going off now is in the Zoom meetings, and I've never done Zoom meetings really. I'm talking now. I mean, I'll watch someone's entire video if I'm interested in it and listen to it, and then I'll give a full, complete, focused response in a video, and I'll post it underneath. And if they're interested in what I think, then they'll listen to it. If they're not, they don't, right? In those Zoom meetings, I mean, they're all right for very brief meetings, but you don't actually need to... You can just watch the video if they want to brief you with it. And when people reply, I don't really think that they reply very thoroughly, right? It's never really that comprehensive. But one thing, like, I think this 77th Brigade and the government and Starmer's toolmaking and this, like, woke, World Economic Forum agenda, if they get as many people on the screen as possible so they can see their faces on a grid, right? And then when people are talking about certain things like politics or Starmer or whatever, you can see the facial reactions of everyone to that. That's that would be the target and goal for someone who wanted to really make use of this facial recognition software and surveillance, to put it to use to try and assess people's political points of view and so forth. And the reason they're in those Zoom meetings, like with Roger Hallam, look at Roger Hallam's facing these criminal charges now in court this week, without any proper acknowledged petitioning privileges and rights. They shut down his political party. So I think that their goal was to provoke everyone onto social media so they could use that facial identification and surveillance software on the social media, not the streets. I mean, that's just a distraction, and the whole police using it out and about in the streets for crime is kind of like just it's like the joke part of it, It's this Scottish National Party, giving excuses to get into people's houses and prosecute from things you say in your own house, in your own private views and opinions, and this Roger Hallam thing with the political party. They had the Burning Pink Party, and it probably was going to be quite an actual thing, the Love Party or the Heritage Party is a thing, but I think it probably would have done a bit better. But it ended up getting shut down because they infiltrated the meetings on Zoom, and unlawfully. You have got protection in parliamentary privilege over it, as long as you're honest. You waive the privileges when you lie or commit fraud. A lot of the actions that people are doing are peer-supported, and it is the oath and writ of the petition that protects you from the normal local courts, other than answering in the parliament. So if people consent to it in large numbers, then, they agree with and officially stand by the action in law. Really, I guess, with the jurisdiction not of the justices or the government or even the king, but of your actual peers, that they're defending their interests and rights, really. It is defending your interests and rights. So, some people are doing well, but they're not really doing well because, Assange shouldn't have been in jail for 5 years, this political Burning Pink Party shouldn't have been closed down. Roger Hallam shouldn't have been put in prison. It really is, whenever there's a success now or a victory, it's kind of like on the back end of it, it's not actually stopping the government, it's literally just fanning the flames, really, or where the government are literally putting it to use, as I speak now, all this tech, AI software and so forth, although I haven't got my camera on, so they can't use facial recognition, but they definitely can use all the audio equivalent of it, it's, some people just want to try and get on with a normal life. We're being fought in a way that they want, I think they kind of want every person to kind of be almost kind of like celebrity in a way, And the thing is, with the government, they don't actually want people to get to know each other. What the government actually has decided is suddenly they're really interested in people and the public, and they want to get to know these people. They want to know everything about them so they can, pigeonhole them and classify them and, put them in categories, in AI classification. But they've actually stopped us talking to each other. They've got us blocking and banning each other and intolerance up to ridiculous levels where no one will tolerate anyone disagreeing with them or other views. It's just block, block, block and ban. So we're not learning about each other or understanding each other. That means we can't come together and unite. But what the government are doing is they're actually learning in overdrive about everyone, but storing it all on machines and assessments, but not because they want to be our friends and not because they want to assess us, because they want to categorise us and then make law to legislate in order to know who's on their side, so they're allies, and then all of the other people can literally be tagged effectively, digitally tagged, and controlled by laws with their movement and freedoms and so forth, in their vehicles, moving around town, and even speaking in your own home, which is completely and totally authoritarian and fascist. And it's not helping anyone make friends and meet people. They definitely don't want people to make friends and meet people. And all this freedom of information, what Tony Blair purported to, was really a campaign to have the freedom of information of us, but not because you want to be someone's friend. They say that, sometimes they say keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. So I think the government are going with that model, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. And they're actually, it would be all right if they wanted to learn something about you to help you out, but they don't. They want people to not listen to you, not understand you, not learn about you. They just want, people to be very impatient, fickle, and block and ban each other, so they can't form groups, parties, proper friendships, unless they're kind of this allegiance or this certain group of the elite. And current groups now that are doing very well, I mean, Team Assange, Team Kennedy, Team Big Brother Watch, really, Extinction Rebellion, in a way, they're succeeding socially, but at the same time, Hallam was banged in prison. He had his political party literally, crashed. Assange was put in prison. And the way these governments believe in this is that, they think that they've got this law and they've got these rights and they've got these standards and moral values, supposedly, but really, they can't do it because, if they tell the truth and do the law properly, they're reckoning that, we'll all kick off riot and go berserk and go mad at them. So they have to do things through lies, deceit, treachery, and shenanigans, we'll have to do it this way or else the public will kick off, or we'll have to, do it that way, or everyone will, complain. So actually, there isn't really a law. There isn't really a law. What they believe in is lies. They believe in frauds, falsehoods. They believe in pretending that there's a law when they want to make us do something or put us through a process. But, they're not actually doing the law at all. The justice system in England is not doing legislation, and they're not doing any law at all. They're actually doing what the hell they want. Maybe the peers in Parliament believe that they can do that, make their own judgments and decisions, just as these campaign groups are doing. So basically, but that's why people aren't abiding by the law, because these people have been conning us the whole time. But anyway, what can I say? Some people are doing okay and effective, when they're just, as long as you're contributing. But I mean, I must grumble. I had a YouTube channel that was doing well and making progress, but I'm not even allowed to have that. Only 5,000 people, which isn't a lot, but, I'm not allowed to have that, even though it's illegal to remove it, but then you've got these mass mobility groups of millions of people like Brand, and I don't necessarily think they're making progress because, at the moment, Brand is just, it's like, it's almost like throwing, something like throwing meat to the sharks, or, throwing feed to chickens, not calling Brand a chicken at all. But all these news channels and stories now, if the government do something, or if they pull a stunt or an event, then it's almost like throwing the feed out. It's like, George Galloway's pecking at it, or, Redacted, or Tucker Carlson, or Brand. They're all like pecking at the feed. Oh, something happened, well, where shall I watch it, they're all like literally going for the chicken feed, like mad. It's like Redacted's going for it, and then, Tucker Carlson's going for it, and Russell Brand's going for it, and they're all pecking at it to get the story, the news, and whose channel are you going to watch it on? I'll watch, the Assange update on Redacted, then I can watch the Assange update, on Big Brother Watch, then I can watch the Assange update on Russell Brand, then I can watch the Assange update on George Galloway, then I can watch the Assange update on Robert F. Kennedy Jr. It's too much. Notice that there's too many channels to watch. But they're all doing the exact same thing. It literally is almost like a hall of mirrors now. And they're only responding to an event that happens. But, Assange got free. That's brilliant, amazing. But what I come to realise at the end is that why was he in there for 5 years before this deal? When clearly, once we all get to learn the law properly, which we should have done earlier, and I think they did know it earlier, but when it comes to the crunch, there was no way that he could have been extradited to America at all. It was an impossibility. It's the victories, the singing, the chanting, the gatherings in public are all kind of like off the back of disaster, catastrophe. I don't necessarily think we're going to stop this government, because I think that they've got us now with this Zoom meeting